Hello class, welcome to Human Development and Learning, an online class which I'm attempting to make a little bit more humane and human by having some video contact. First of all, I want to say that I hope we're all going to have a really good term. One of the things that I'd like to say is that I find students, especially when they're just starting the program, to be very anxious. And I'd like to ask you to relax. The class has been taught many times in this format. I'm very familiar with this course. I've been teaching it for many decades. I've organized it so that it's doable. It is a demanding class. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of information. You do have to think at a higher level, which I know you're prepared to do. But the class assumes that you as students are quite mature and motivated, and that you will be doing quite well. Your primary assignments are structured in such a way that you have to go through the class, week by week, rather than working ahead. I know a lot of online students would rather work ahead at a really fast pace, but for many reasons it's better for you to kind of take it week by week. The change to the 15-week format really allows us to do so in a leisurely fashion to cover the material adequately. And I think the discussion questions will point you in the direction of really thinking at a higher level and responding to each other in a dialectical kind of fashion, which I find to be very interesting and stimulating for students. Your quizzes can be repeated until you get 100%. So while they're not really open book, I would like you to learn the material and to know it. The questions are fairly straightforward, and I do want you to gain this information so that it's actually yours. But everybody will do well on the quizzes because they can repeat them numerous times. And that's what's called 100% learning, where even when we have something that we haven't learned, we pick that up and learn it in a positive way, and then, we've achieved 100% of our total ability to learn certain information. The project is meant to be stimulating, exciting to you. It can be developed within your own interest pattern. It includes library research, learning what's available in the literature, and an interview on a developmental level. This isn't a clinical interview as much as it is a developmental interview, learning how to think developmentally, which is really one of my main goals in this class, is to have you think about people over time in a developmental fashion, rather than looking for pathology, looking at all of us as growing, learning human beings. And so in that sense, there are two major concepts that are important. The concept of equipotentiality, that we can come from this point in time and through our choice can go to many different eventualities, and also multi-potentiality, which allows us to think about this point in time as determined from the past and into the future. So we're really looking at human behavior and human experience as something that extends over time, that changes in interaction with society and individuals, personal experience, personal choice, and age. Age itself has certain contexts that it presents to us, although these age-related concepts are also very embedded in our culture. So I'm hoping that we're going to look at the first chapter and get a concept of change over time as individuals grow. Another concept that I want you to become very familiar with is the ecological approach of Bronfenbrenner, who emphasizes that we have different layers of response. We have, first of all, our own relationships, our personal experience, our dyadic relationships, that's the microsystem. And then we have our larger experience, our family, our friends, our direct contacts. That's the mesosystem. Then the next system is the exosystem. It's around us. It's part of our culture. It's part of our community. It's part of our society. And then the macro system, which is world events, cataclysmic events, society as a worldwide whole. And so we think about the different ways that these layers can affect us. Sometimes war can become a very personal experience, even though it's in the macro system. And sometimes subculture can be a very external experience, even though it's fairly close. So the concept is that each individual has different components that are surrounding them that they can make use of in differing aspects. Another very important concept in developmental psychology is, of course, the theories that are utilized to explain how personality develops. The first of which being psychoanalytic, which developed into psychodynamic and then into Erickson's kind of redefinition of psychosocial development. Then there are behavioral theories, which look at behavior in terms of context, not in terms of time. And so time and age are less important factors when thinking behaviorally than when thinking psychodynamically or developmentally. It's not that developmental psychologists don't believe that behavioral aspects are important. It's just that they believe that development in and of itself has a certain context. And then there's also humanistic, which emphasizes individual choice, personal growth, and a certain level of independence from the context. Developmentally, there's one particular theory that's particularly in learning, and that's Piaget's cognitive developmental theory. And of course the book and the class focuses on Piaget quite a lot to help us understand how mental processes develop over time. Another concept that's very important to kind of get under your belt is the notion of cohort, that we're part of a group of people who are similar to ourselves in age, and in that sense we share many experiences with that cohort because we were 9 at the time they were 9, and so we were vulnerable to developmental effects at the same time that they were vulnerable in the same way. So that something that occurs when someone's 9, like a hurricane, affects them differently than someone who is 29, who perhaps has been through 2 hurricanes. So this is the notion of what we call age-graded events, that certain events are related to our age and we're developmentally sensitive. Then there are also socioculturally graded events, subculture events that occur to all of us within a culture. Like right now, we're all affected to some extent by an economic slowdown, by a war that's draining our economy, by some natural disasters that have cost a lot. So our country's growth and development affects all of us, but in different kinds of ways based upon our age. Somebody who's in the middle of their income-producing period is much more affected by, for example, real estate values being reduced and not being able to move out of a home or an apartment into another larger facility than someone who is at a later age and has already accumulated a good deal of equity in their home.